Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and do a comparison between the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the iPhone XS Max a few years later from their release. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, both these iPhones are very interesting because they're both kind of this, the XS Max is the older version of the 12 Pro Max. This phone came out in 2018. This one came out back in 2020. Now, the XS Max on the front has a pretty good 6.5-inch Super Retina OLED display, and it's a pretty good panel. I've said this for many years now. This is still a very good screen, and it was probably one of the best assets of the XS Max. This thing's panel was very good. You have the notch up top, and most iPhones still have that, and very little bezel around it, making this iPhone a very good device in my opinion. On the 12 Pro Max, it's a very good panel as well, 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel. So it's a little bit of a bigger panel, and I will say the 12 Pro Max's screen is definitely better. If you're looking at different viewpoints, if you're scrolling through and just kind of you're looking at the screen from day to day, this is a massive panel. It's bigger than the XS Max, and it's a very good panel as well. The notches are about the same size as well, so there's not really that big of a difference there. But one of the biggest differences, I would say, on the 12 Pro Max versus the XS Max is actually with the sides. You're actually getting a flat side on the 12 Pro Max, whereas you're getting a curved side on the XS Max. Now, is that a big deal? Not really, but you can actually kind of see how thick of a phone the 12 Pro Max is. It's definitely a much thicker phone than you would actually imagine, but this is probably one of the best advantages of something like the 12 Pro Max. It just feels so premium. You get this phone and it still feels like $1 million phone, which is so awesome. Now on the back, and cracked back on my 12 Pro Max, which is crazy, as you can see, but you're getting a really good, solid feeling frosted glass back on the 12 Pro Max, which is nice. The XS Max has that standard glass back. I do have a skin on my XS Max. I have to put a skin on my 12 Pro Max, but the frosted glass back, even my cracked one, still feels very, very good. And you have a triple camera setup on the 12 Pro Max and dual camera setup on the XS Max, and that kind of covers it up on the outside. IP certification on both. You do have the MagSafe capability on the 12 Pro Max, but you still have wireless charging and IP certification on the XS Max as well. Now, in terms of the exterior, that kind of covers it up. In terms of software and longevity, this is where things will probably be a little bit more in favor for the 12 Pro Max, and this is the newer iPhone. So because of that, if you're planning on buying an iPhone between these two, the one that's going to be lasting the longest in terms of software is going to be the 12 Pro Max. So if I had to assume what's going to be happening in the future, the XS Max could end off at iOS 18, so you'll be getting all the cool features of iOS, the rest of iOS 16, 17, and then ending off with 18 in my opinion, possibly. With the 12 Pro Max, if it goes well, it could probably end off at iOS 19 or 20. So this iPhone has the highest likelihood of getting a lot of cool features in the future that I'm actually really happy about. So that is one of the big things to keep in mind as well, and that kind of covers it up in the software. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these phones. The 12 Pro Max has that Apple A14 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone XS Max has that Apple A12 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM inside. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background, as you can tell. So let's get into it. 12 Pro Max is here, XS Max is here. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 12 Pro Max definitely faster. Let's go and get into their app stores, 3, 2, 1. And that is going to be really annoying. And you can see definitely the 12 Pro Max was the faster one here. Now if we go and scroll through, let's see if there's a difference. Now there's no 120 Hz in either one of these, but these are still very smooth displays that I actually do like a lot. So scrolling through that kind of covers it up here. I do actually want to download an application. So if I just click here, if I just download PUBG on both of these, it may take a second, but I am just kind of curious to see if there's going to be a big difference. So you can see this one already got into the downloading panel here. The XS Max is still stuck on that downloading panel, and it took a while to even get into this specific display. So I will just go and end it, but that was kind of very interesting. Hopping out of both of these, we can go and get into some other applications. Let's go and get into Mail, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 12 Pro Max is still the faster one. Hopping out of here, let's go and get into Clock, 3, 2, 1. I would say faster on the 12 Pro Max. Let's do News, 3, 2, 1. We did get into two different panels here, so we'll just kind of go ahead and live that one out. Let's go and hop out of here. Let's go and get into Reminders, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 12 Pro Max, Notes, 3, 2, 1. Okay, two different panels as well. Let's do Settings, which I'm kind of curious about, 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing, hopping out of here. Let's go and get into some of these other applications. And I have a ton of them. Files, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 12 Pro Max was faster. Let's go and do Siri shortcuts, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 12 Pro Max again is the faster one. Contacts, 3, 2, 1. Again, much faster on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. I'm not really too sure what was going on there. Let's go and get into stocks, which I do not have here. I may have on the home screen. 3, 2, 1. Okay, 2 different panels here as well. Let's go and hop out of here. Let's go ahead. Let's get into this folder and let's go and open up some of these. Let's do voice memos 3, 2, 1. Okay, 12 Pro Max getting faster. Let's do calculator 3, 2, 1. And after testing out some of these basic applications, we can even try Temple Run 2. I mean, it's quite obvious which one is the faster one here. I think the iPhone 12 Pro Max is by far the faster one almost every single time that I've loaded up an application. Now, is it a crazy huge difference? I wouldn't really say that much, but I would say, I mean, in this one, I don't even know what's going on. I don't know why the XS Max isn't loading this one up. But I will say from a day-to-day perspective, you are going to be getting a much faster phone from something like the iPhone 12 Pro Max than the iPhone XS Max. So definitely when it comes down to both these, I would say the iPhone XS Max is a little slower. I don't want to say it's massively slower, but there's quite a bit of a difference as you can tell. So in terms of that, that kind of covers it up there. And in terms of the camera setups, as I've already mentioned, there are quite a bit of, a few differences between these two. The iPhone 12 Pro Max has that wide ultra-wide and telephoto lens. The XS Max has a wide and telephoto lens only, which is okay. 4K at 60 on the back of both of these. You can do 1080p at 60 on the front of the XS Max, but you can do 4K at 60 on the front of the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is really cool. Now with the XS Max, personally, I feel like this camera is still very good. I wouldn't say it's very good, but it's good enough for the most part. This phone camera is still very, very much, I mean, if you're going through and just taking Snapchat and Instagram photos and stuff, this is going to be perfectly fine. One thing I love about both these phones, that they have humongous screens, so it makes the viewfinder of the cameras look that much better, which is something I actually do like a lot. If you're trying to zoom in and zoom out, you're going to be getting a very good experience on the iPhone XS Max. There's not like crazy amounts of features built in, but it has, it does the job. If you want to download another application, go for it. But this camera, I think, is still very good, for pretty much everyone out there for the most part. Now, the 12 Pro Max definitely takes it up a notch. Sorry about my humongous cracked screen, but the 12 Pro Max's display is so good that it makes the camera look that much better. It's so funny. Now, this camera itself is very good. Like, you can realistically do anything you want to with it. I've owned the 12 Pro for quite a bit of time, pretty much the same camera on both. And like I mentioned before, having 4K at 60 on both of these is really nice. You still have portrait mode on both. You still have the standard photo and video mode as well. So like I said before, theoretically, whatever you're going to do with it, you're going to be getting a pretty good sensor. Is it going to be perfect? Probably. I think for a lot of people out there, you probably won't be doing too much complaining with a phone like this. So I will say the iPhone 12 Pro Max probably has a better camera when it comes down to it. And to be honest, I think when it comes down to both of these devices, the 12 Pro Max is probably the better phone. I don't really see too many cases where the 12 Pro Max is like the worst between these two. There are, like, with the 11 Pro Max, it makes a little bit more sense where that phone may have some advantages, but the 12 Pro Max is such a good phone with so much capability that I just do think this is the better one. There's not really too many areas that XS Max wins. This thing is faster, has a better display, better build quality, better battery life, better cameras. You name it, this phone probably has it. And the XS Max, I think for the price tag is still pretty decent. Like, if you still own this phone, I don't know if I would go from the XS Max to a 12 Pro Max. I would rather go from a XS Max to a 13 Pro Max if you have the money, or you can wait a little bit longer until those go down in the used market. But this is still a very good phone. It's not that much slower than the XS or 12 Pro Max. Still has a pretty good camera, still is pretty good overall, very good build quality for this phone. I just think the 12 Pro Max is the much better one in my opinion. So that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.